Super Mario Sunshine, one of my favorite games of all time. It is a game I grew up with and never gotten tired of. From the nice vacation-like atmosphere, to the fun flood mechanic, Mario Sunshine happens to hit all the right notes in my book, and I think that it would be fitting for my first scripted video to be based off of this game. And what better subject matter to talk about than what the game is mainly comprised of? That's right, I will be talking about the levels in Mario Sunshine. Specifically, I will be ranking them from worst to best. Before we begin though, I would like to go over a few small details. First off, I'm only talking about the 7 main levels of the game, so no Delfino Plaza secret levels, and no Corona Mountain. I will also not be counting Delfino Plaza itself, as it is more of an overworld rather than an actual level. As far as how I'll be ranking these levels, I'll be doing it based on each of their layouts, missions, atmosphere, and my general enjoyment playing them, as well as some other small details. Also, I'm essentially going to be spoiling major plot points in the game, so if you haven't played or seen the game yet and you want to go in playing it with a fresh mind, you might not want to watch this, at least not yet. Finally, remember that this is just my opinion. If you disagree with my picks, let me know down in the comments how you rank these levels, and I'd be interested to see how you would list them. But with all that being done and said, let's get into it. Before we get to my bottom pick, let me clarify that I don't consider any level in Mario Sunshine to be quote-unquote bad. I think that every level in this game has more positive attributes than negative. It all just comes down to which levels have the best qualities about them, and out of all the levels, the one that doesn't have as much to offer as the others, at least to me, would be Gelato Beach. Listen, I don't hate Gelato Beach. In fact, I really like Gelato Beach. I just think that it's not as great as some of the other levels on the list. But before I talk about why it only ranks at number 7, I want to show off what makes this level great. For starters, look at how nice this place is. Being a beach level, everything is so bright and colorful, and it actually has a cool tropical feel. The sand texture here looks great, and the huts and trees scattered throughout make the level look really nice. Some smaller details I especially like are the design of the coral reef and the reflections in the big mirrors. However, my favorite part about this level, in terms of design, has to be the back hills. Not only does it let you see a great vantage point of the entire level, but it also serves as a nice contrast to the beach area. Also, the break pattern on the hill works really well with the theme. It especially looks good on the central plaza. As for the missions, there are 2 that stand out to me as really fun. The first mission is the Wiggler boss. One thing that's really cool about it is that it's sort of foreshadowed in the previous stage when he's woken up and disembodied. The actual boss fight is cool too, because it uses his hand sculpture mechanic in a very interesting way. It's also pretty neat, and a little bit funny, to see the Wiggler run through the back hills on occasion. The other mission I love in Gelato Beach is the Sandbird. Now, I know this mission doesn't have the best reputation amongst fans, but I personally love it. Not only was the build up to this moment cool, but the actual mission itself is fun. It kinda reminds me of the Shadow of the Colossus battle. Okay, maybe it's not that epic, but there is kind of a tense feel to it, especially when you're fighting the air current of the bird's wings and tail. Also, the Sandbird looks pretty cool as well, and I like the design of this stage as well. It kinda reminds me of the Wing Cap stage in Mario 64. So what keeps Gelato Beach from being higher? Well, although I do enjoy playing this level, and there are good missions here, there are some pretty annoying ones as well. Although I do like the Sandbird, I can agree that there are some moments here where you just want to quit. Red coins on the coral reef is another one of those tedious missions, primarily with the coins that follow with the school of fish, as they occasionally go under the seafloor where you can't grab them. And of course, there's the infamous Watermelon Festival, where you have to navigate a giant watermelon down a hill, through a level filled with catacombs, and hope that by some miracle the watermelon doesn't burst, so you can show it to the judge of the festival and claim your shine. Yeah, the mission wasn't fun when I was 7, and it's not fun now. However, the one mission that I find the most infuriating, not just in this level, but in the entire game, would have to be Gelato Beach's 100 coin mission. Out of all the levels, Gelato Beach is the only one that really feels strapped for cash, and this mission can take so long. Through most of the mission, you'll probably be spending your time just standing around a watermelon, trying to make it burst, collecting the 1 coin it gives you when it does, and waiting for it to regrow so you can repeat that process all over again. It's without a doubt my least favorite shine to get in the game. More so than the lily pad level, the pachinko machine, and a few more that we'll talk about later in this video. Overall, Gelato Beach does have some exciting moments that make the playthrough worthwhile, but the overall tediousness of some of these missions put it at the bottom of the list. One interesting note on Mario Sunshine is that each level is based off of different types of common vacation spots. From a relaxing tropical area, to a thrilling adventure, to a quiet retreat, they're all there. So, it's a little strange that there's a level based off of a ship port. Harbor is very different compared to other levels, and I'm not even talking about its concept. What I'm mainly referring to is that this level feels a little more compressed than the others, which are on a much larger scale. On one hand, it's a little disappointing because one thing that makes Mario Sunshine so great is the level exploration, and that's a little hard to do with a smaller level. However, what more than makes up for the smaller area are the possibilities, and by that, I mean that this level is open to a lot of branching paths. There are so many different ways to get to certain areas, and while I can see other people not liking that aspect, I think it's really cool, and it adds a little bit of replayability to the level. Also, the missions do a really good job of utilizing the entirety of Rico Harbor. For example, the cage shine sprite basically has you navigating through the entire level to get to the cage where the shine sprite is being kept. And while we're on the subject of missions, Rico Harbor has some fun ones. Gooper Blooper is a fun mini-boss with an interesting concept. The Secret of Rico Tower is one of my favorite secret levels, and it managed to make its way into Galaxy 2, so it must be doing something good. But the main draw to this level are the blooper surfing missions. Blooper Surfing Safari is a blast to go through, and it's really fun to try and beat your previous time, while red coins on the water is hectic, but in a good way, though sometimes you can find yourself getting screwed over in that mission from time to time. Also, I like how each blooper has different attributes, with green being the easiest to control, pink being the fastest, and yellow being a balance of the two. The only shine in this level that I can say I didn't like is definitely Yoshi's Fruit Adventure. Firstly, let's be real, when playing the game for the first time, who would have known that spraying the Cheep Cheeps would turn them into moving platforms, or that each fruit makes a different platform without just randomly spraying everywhere? Even after you figure out the trick though, the mission is still pretty irritating. Getting a durian is luck-based and can take a few minutes if you're not lucky, and sometimes the platforms will spawn in awkward places, making the level much more difficult. Also, if you fall, Yoshi will disintegrate in the water, and then you'll have to swim back to the fruit machine and start the whole thing all over again. Yeah, this stage can be pretty infuriating, and it does take a few points away from Rico Harbor. And it's such a shame too, because it's one of the few missions in the whole game that actually utilizes Yoshi. Another reason as to why I'm not putting Rico Harbor higher on the list is because, visually, it's not as stunning as the rest of the levels. Now, don't get me wrong, it still looks fine. I especially like the building area in the corner of the level, and the Oriole graffiti when it's in the water looks nice as well. But, I don't know. I think that there's just a little too much empty space, and maybe there's a little too much focus on steel girders and cranes. I know that it's trying to fit with the harbor theme, but I feel like they could have done just a tiny bit more, like adding a cool marketplace near the port, like the one in Delfino Plaza, except a little more expansive. Or maybe have some ships come in and out of the area, emphasizing the trading aspect of it. Even having some of the boats in the level move around and not just have them stationary would make it a little better. I might be nitpicking, and I definitely don't know anything about what goes making into a video game, but seeing a little more than just a few boats and some blue steel beams would have been nice. Aside from that, however, I do enjoy playing through Rico Harbor, and it would be higher on the list if I didn't think that the other levels in this game were more enjoyable. Nothing more to say, except on to number 5. Although I do like Gelato Beach and Rico Harbor, I knew when I started making this list that they weren't going to be too high up on here. However, these last 5 levels were extremely difficult to rank. In fact, it kinda pity to put this one as low on the list as it is. However, a decision had to be made, and the number 5 spot goes to Beyonta Village. Now, I can definitely see arguments as to why this would be one of the best, if not the best level in the game. The layout looks nice, there's a lot to explore, and the missions are fun to play. For the most part. So, why only number 5? Well, let's go into a little more detail on why Beyonta Village is a fantastic level before anything else. One major aspect of Beyonta Village that sets it apart from the other levels is that there is actually a day and night version of it, and it greatly affects how the level looks. In the day version, of course, everything is bright and colorful, it looks great like the rest of the game. The night version, however, is where the visual game really hits its mark. When it's nighttime in Beyonta Village, all the colors are so bold and it makes everything look nice and polished. It makes the water look so clean and blue, the fire graffiti is brighter and contrasts with the level nicely. but the biggest visual buff has to be, oddly enough, the shine sprites. Just look at them. They look much more shiny, and I didn't even know that shine sprites could get any shinier. As far as the layout goes, it looks pretty nice. I do like the really tall tree surrounding the stage, and the huge one in the center really stands out to me as well. And then there's the whole underside of the stage, which is pretty neat. Sure, there's not a lot going on down there visually, but it isn't the main focus of the stage, and it adds more space to the level, so there really isn't much to complain about in that department. On to the missions in Pianta Village, and they're decently fun. I had a good time playing through all of them, and none of them were in any way bad, with the exception of you know what. However, none of them were really standout amazing either, though 2 missions do come to mind of being really good. The first one is the Fluff Festival Red Coin Hunt, which puts the red coins in some pretty clever places, and the large amounts of fluff in the air is a nice design choice, plus you can ride them, which is cool. But the one mission I love the most from Pianta Village is the 3rd stage in the level, the Goopy Inferno. I love that it's a non-flood mission, I love how there are multiple ways to beat the stage, I love how it utilizes the village underside as a way of navigation and trying to figure out how to get to your destination. And like I said, the fiery graffiti looks really nice when it's nighttime, so the level is beautiful as well. I love the Goopy Inferno, I love the visuals in this stage, I love Pianta Village as a whole. The only reason it isn't higher on the list is because I love the other 4 levels just a little bit more. But you know what? It was really close. I spent so much time speculating and rearranging the list to try and come up with the placements that I was the most happy with. However, I don't really see having too many good choices to be a bad thing, as it goes to show how great of a game Mario Sunshine is. And if an amazing level like Pianta Village only ranks at number 5, then that must be a good sign of what has yet to come. Do I love the music in this game. Anyways, yes, coming in 4th place is the first level in Mario Sunshine, Bianco Hills, and what an amazing first impression for the game. First, I want to talk about this level's atmosphere. Bianco Hills has this nice rustic charm to it, and out of all of the levels in this game, this is the one that I would want to visit the most. You know, provided that there are no Pokies, water spiders, or giant man-eating plants. Also, like the rest of the game, Bianco Hills is very colorful and the scenery is so vibrant. It is hard to find a camera angle in this area that does not have the color green in it. However, it does not feel overbearing either. It's the perfect amount of green, and it really complements the brown and white in the level nicely. On to the layout, and for the first level in the game, Bianco Hills sure has a lot of variety. The village portion of the level has all of these neat buildings, a few high wires you can tightrope walk on, and this little upper platform area that gives you a great view of the village. On the edge of the village is this wall that has some twists and turns and a really cool water wheel. Beyond the wall is the lake portion of the level, which has some more high wires, a small forest, and some lily pads you can ride on, and you don't even have to take Yoshi all the way to an island via snail boats to use them this time. Finally, there's the windmill hill, which is a good climb up, and being on top of that windmill is such a great feeling. Yeah, pretty expansive for a beginning stage. As far as the missions go, I believe that they show off the main functions of the game very well. Road to the Big Windmill, while another polluted piranha fight, shows off the basic layout of the level and gives an introduction on how missions in this game work. The Hillside Cave Secret shows off the secret level aspect of the game, with losing FLUDD and doing basic platforming without it. And the Red Coin missions introduce, well, the Red Coin missions. I wouldn't say any of these missions are spectacular, but I also don't think that they were supposed to be. Rather, they were just meant to be a fun way to get yourself accustomed to the game, in which case they all succeed. The only missions in this level that stand out are both of the PD Piranha fights. The first one is a simple boss fight, where you travel up to the windmill and then battle PD inside of it. There's not much to say about this one, except it's pretty charming and it does give you your first actual boss fight in the game. The second one is very different, in which that PD actually travels across Bianco Hills, and you have to spray him down, while you try to avoid the obstacles left from the goop. I know people that like this fight, I know people that dislike it, and I'm honestly in the middle. PD's antics can be annoying, but I'm never really struggling to complete it, and the ground fight is more or less the same from the first one. Though I will say that the pig things in this mission can be grating. In the end, I would say that Bianco Hills is my favorite first level in the Mario franchise, even more so than Bob-omb Battlefield and both Good Egg and Sky Station Galaxy. I know I didn't say too much in this entry, mainly because it is a simple level, but it does have enough highs to land it in middle place. It's vibrant, it shows off the game nicely, and I would definitely love to visit a place like that. But seriously, no PD Piranha when I visit. Well, this level is interesting to talk about. Usually when I hear the level Serena Beach being brought up in conversation, I mainly hear people talk about how frustrating the level is. Whether it be the buggy hotel room interior, the tedious casino, or a bunch of other problems, it seems to be considered as the worst level in the game. And while my opinions on the level are different, I mean, it's at number 3 for a reason, I can honestly agree that this level has more technical issues than even some of the levels lower on my list. To begin with, when you're in the hotel, the camera angles can be pretty inconvenient, especially when you're in the individual guest rooms. It's never that big of an issue because you are hardly in a big rush when you're in the hotel. However, there are times where it gets in the way when you're playing the game, like in the Shadow Mario chase in this level. Another note is that this is the smallest level in the whole game, even smaller than Rico Harbor. That means that there isn't that much exploration to do. Then there are the casino levels. People don't like how everything is luck-based, and with the secret levels case, people don't like how you need to do 3 things in order to unlock the actual secret level, and that the tile flipping is buggy, and the whole thing goes on forever. It isn't a popular level amongst fans. Most of these issues are ones that I can't really create counter-arguments against. However, I do still believe that Serena Beach is a fantastic level. Before I go into the points that I can counter-argue, I want to talk about why I think Serena Beach is so amazing. First off, just look at this place. Aesthetically, Serena Beach is one of the best looking levels in the entire game. Throughout the whole game, Mario Sunshine has been very bright and happy, and overall just upbeat. This level, however, is much more dark and ominous. It is definitely a huge contrast to the overall game. The colors are a lot less saturated, and the general feel is a lot gloomier. Just look at the skies outside. Those hues of orange and purple do a great job at setting the mood for this level. The layout of this level is great too. While it might be small, there's actually quite a bit of variety inside the hotel. Some of my favorite parts included the design of the casino, the look of the main lobby, and the air ducts. The level designers really did a good job with putting a lot of detail in such a small space. The beach portion of the stage looks incredible as well. It's really cool to see the outside of the hotel, and the huts and fountains near the hotel look nice as well. Also, I just learned while writing the script that when you look at Serena Beach from a top-down perspective, it resembles the shape of a GameCube controller. Once again, hats off to the game designers for that neat Easter egg. Time to talk about the missions. One argument against this level that I can agree with is that King Boo is an obnoxious boss. I'm fine with some luck in video games, just keep it out of my boss battles please. It especially gets rage-inducing when you bring Cataquacks in the mix. Man, I really want to like these little guys, but this game is not making that easy for me. Besides that, however, I happen to enjoy the missions in Serena Beach. The Hotel Lobby Secret is a good yet challenging secret level. Mysterious Hotel Delfino has you navigate through all of the hotel and has some fun problem-solving skills, and I actually do like the secret of Casino Delfino. Sure, it takes a little bit to open, but the tile flipping isn't that bad, and the secret level itself is well designed. My favorite mission in Serena Beach, though, has to be the Manta Storm. Not only is the build-up really cool, the actual fight itself is a neat concept. Essentially, what you have to do is spray down Phantom Manta and try not to die from either getting thrown around too much or getting electrified by the goo. Seems simple enough? Well, when you spray Phantom Manta enough times, it will split into 2. And it doesn't stop there. It'll just keep dividing and dividing and dividing. After a while, the whole stage will be covered in this electric goo, and there will be so many tinier manta rays running around the stage. Also, when only the smallest of the manta rays remain, all of them will start chasing after you, which can get pretty hectic. Once you get the last one, the hotel will be revealed and you can claim your Shine Sprite. It's a fantastic boss battle. While Serena Beach might not be popular with others, it's popular with me. And while it may have a few issues, I think that all of the good in this level heavily outweighs the bad. This level actually sat at my number 1 spot in the initial draft of this list, and it stayed there for quite a while. In the end though, it ended up with bronze because, honestly, these last 2 levels are in a league of their own. Well, here we are. There are 2 levels left that I have yet to talk about. When coming up with the idea of this list, though I knew I would have some issues with the middle, I thought I had my number 1 pick easily figured out. However, after replaying the game for research purposes, there were other levels that really stood out to me as tough competitors for the number 1 spot. After rethinking and rearranging the list multiple times, my initial prediction on what would have topped the list is now the runner-up. While it might not have been the topper that I thought it would have been, Pinna Park still holds its own as being a fantastic level. Before we get to me gushing over the missions and visuals though, there are some interesting aspects to this level that I would like to talk about first. A big reason that Pinna Park stands out is because out of all of the other levels, Pinna Park is the only one that actually plays a major role in the story. Unless you count the first mission in Bianco Hills to be a major plot device, which I really don't. Anyways, while the story of Mario Sunshine is established well in the beginning of the game, it isn't until you unlock Pinna Park where things really start to get interesting. Before you even get into the level, you'll notice that Shadow Mario is in a boat with Princess Peach in it. After Shadow Mario taunts you with his disgustingly long tongue, they head off to the next level in the game, where Mario and his evil counterpart will face off in an intense boss fight, which we'll talk about a little later. After the battle, it is revealed that Shadow Mario is really Bowser's son, who thinks that Peach is his mother. It was also revealed that he was the one who really caused the mess in Isle Delfino, and that he thinks that Mario is the actual bad guy trying to tear his family apart. This twist really caught me off guard as a kid, and it made me very amped to finish the game, with a less than stellar ending, but I digress. Okay, now I'm going to start gushing, and let's begin with this. Pinna Park is beautiful! The scenery is so lively, there's always movement, like an amusement park themed level should be, and the colors, there's definitely not an absence of those here. I mean, if I went to an amusement park like this in real life, I would feel a little ripped off because there are only like 5 different rides. Also, there are electric turtles everywhere. But as far as level design goes, it works great. Some of my favorite parts are the Viking ships, the little pool where the mid-boss was, and do I even need to say what my absolute favorite part of the level is? I mean, it's in both the thumbnail of this video and even in my own username. The little beach area, while not quite on the level of the other beaches in the game, also looks good. The sunflowers in the area are especially a nice aesthetic to the area, at least when they're alive. Also, I wanted to wait until this level to talk about this, but all throughout the game, if you look close enough in the background, you can see other levels in the distance. The reason I waited until Pinna Park to talk about this is because I think it works best here. I don't know, maybe it's because you can see more areas in this level than any other, maybe I like the way these areas look over the water, maybe I'm just being biased. Either way, it's that kind of attention to detail that turns a great looking level into a work of art. Time to talk about the missions, and let's start out with the mid-boss that I mentioned earlier. Let me just say that this is the best boss battle in the entire game, even more so than Phantom Manta. In the boss fight, you are on a roller coaster trying to shoot water missiles at an animatronic Bowser, all while he fires bullet bills in your direction and breathes fire that you have to put out. Do I even need to explain why this boss battle is epic? I mean, Robot Bowser, missiles, roller coasters, and fire. I think the reasoning is quite obvious. In all seriousness, what makes the boss fight so amazing is how left field it is. When I first got Mario Sunshine, the last thing that I would have ever expected to be in this game would be an on-rail shooter fighting against a mecha. It really adds variety to the game, and makes the climax of the story as amazing as it should be. As far as the other missions go, they're pretty standard. You have your red coin mission, your secret level, your other secret level, your Shadow Mario chase. I guess you could say that it's your basic fare. I have nobody to blame but myself for that. Anyways, the one mission that's an exception to this is yet another one that utilizes the roller coaster. I'm talking about the roller coaster balloons. Like the second PD Piranha fight, the opinions I've heard about this mission overall have been relatively mixed. Personally, while the balloons are certainly no Mecha Bowser, I believe that this mission is quite fun. Sure, the aim on the missiles can be a little awkward at times, but it never really broke the game or made it unplayable, at least for me. Also, I'm just a sucker for these kinds of missions, as mentioned before. A pretty colorful environment, pretty fun missions, and a pretty epic boss fight make Pinna Park a pretty super awesome amazing level. And to think that this is only number 2 on the list. Number 1 must have breathtaking visuals, incredible missions, and something big to give it an identity not only in this game, but in the whole Mario series. But something like that can't possibly be on something like the GameCube, right? Heh. Funny thing actually. You should already know what's number 1 by process of elimination. Honestly, when I first came up with the idea to make this list, I was not expecting to put Noki Bay that high up on the list, let alone number 1. However, when I replayed the game to research for this list, I found so many things to love about this area. Let's start by talking about the design, and boy does this stage have a lot to offer. The level is based off of a bay, with some cliffside and ruins aspects added into the mix, and it works incredibly well. The cliffs look very nice and open up a lot of possibilities for exploration. And the level is huge, so trust me when I say that there is a lot to explore. The ruins are really fun to explore as well. I love the gimmick where when you spray water on a certain tile, then the whole giant pathway opens up. It adds so much more exploration and depth to an already gigantic level. Even traveling through the water can be enjoyable, especially when I have a mud boat or the turbo nozzle. And on the subject of water, look at how clean and beautiful the water in this level is. In all of the other levels in the game, the water doesn't look bad per se, but most of them have a seafloor with this sand texture, which matches the theme of those levels perfectly, but it does make the water look a little murky. In Noki Bay, however, the sand texture is not there, and it makes it look so blue. I especially love how it looks when there is no floor and it appears to be bottomless. It's a nice design choice. Some other design choices I like in this level are the shells above the water and the little cove at the end of the boss of Tricky Ruins. Being huge and having clean water aren't the only things that set Noki Bay apart from the other levels though. Another neat thing Noki Bay does is that it's the only level that has a little storyline going on throughout the level. Sure, there were some small continuity nods with the Sandbird and Gelato Beach, as well as a few other hints and jabs in other levels. But with Noki Bay, there's actually a core conflict, and all that other stuff you learned in your English class. The story in Noki Bay revolves around the polluted water and finding out how to purify it. After 2 failed attempts at trying to clean the water, we finally learn where the source of the pollution is. An eel with teeth issues. Hey, I didn't say it was the most sensible story. But before we do something about it, we have to learn a new mechanic to the game: scuba diving. The scuba missions are some of the most fun missions in the entire game. The controls are surprisingly fluent for water physics, and it adds even more variety to Noki Bay than it already has. Red coins in a bottle perfectly introduces this function to the game by not putting any serious hazards in the map and just letting you roam a decently sized area. Eelymouth Stentus has you finally taking on the source of the pollution in a very tense boss fight. Though you're not really fighting him as much as you are just spraying his teeth and helping him take care of his dental problems. Either way, it's a very thrilling mission where you'll be desperately trying to get coins for air. Finally, there's the red coin fish, which the Nodokis give us as a reward for helping them with their sanitization issues. Once again, a fun mission and a nice reward for our hard work. All 3 of these missions really stand out as some of the best in the whole game, and maybe even the whole franchise. They take a concept which fits perfectly with the core theme of the game and added everything they could to make it 100% perfect. Also, look at those underwater caverns. That's the kind of scenery dreams are made of. But I'm not done yet. The scuba missions are fantastic and all, but they aren't the only great ones in Noki Bay. Remember way back in the video when I said that the Secret of Rico Tower was one of my favorite secret levels in the game? Well, the Shell Secret is my favorite in the game. Seriously, this layout is so intricate and there's a whole lot of variety. You can't help but love it. Also, there are the first 2 missions, Uncork the Waterfall and the boss of Tricky Ruins, which have you explore the entirety of Noki Bay and go up against some nice familiar faces. Even the Shadow Mario chase, which I normally don't care that much for, is pretty fun here. Because there's a lot of level, the chase is much larger and it makes for a pretty exciting, albeit sometimes lengthy, chase. The missions in Noki Bay are a lot of fun, and despite the fact that the underwater missions are the crowning jewel of the level, the other ones are amazing in their own rights. When I first played this game when I was a child, this was my absolute favorite level in all of Mario Sunshine. 12 years later, while my opinions altered a little bit over that course of time, Noki Bay ended up back on top, and I don't picture it ever getting dethroned again. This has been Ferrisidic, and I hope you enjoyed my first scripted video on this channel. This was a blast to make, and I might do more of these in the future. Until then, I'm going to be shutting things down right now, but I will see you all when the wheel starts spinning again. Adieu.
Thank you.